everybody, and welcome to another episode of YMTGT Taps. I'm Joey Pasco.
I'm Reset Smith.
Hi, Reset. How you doing?
Sorry. Hi. I'm doing great. 20-year-old references for the win. It's just what we do around here. So, welcome back, Joey.
Welcome back, Joe.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah, it feels... I don't know. Look, I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. Based on the conversations that me and Joey have been having lately, it kind of feels like we're back. I don't know.
We took like a multi-year break, and then we just took a multi-day break. So
that was a good Baltimore punk band.
That's
anyway.
Right. They would play with all the lights on.
Hey, we're starting with 20-year-old references, so let's go.
So I think, I guess what we're getting at is it's only been about 2 weeks since our last episode. And we think we want to make this a more consistent thing. And so we're going to continue to try to put out episodes every 2 weeks going forward. At least that's the plan for now.
Yeah. I really have no interest in doing a weekly show again. I don't have time for that. I know you don't have time for that. But we've been having fun talking about this stuff. And I feel like we can get an episode out every 2 weeks,
yep.
You know? And so, while we're feeling that groove, let's do it, you know?
Exactly.
So that's cool. And I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it, actually.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun talking about Magic, and it's definitely fun putting it out there, talking to you and putting it out there for people to listen to and interact with and all that. So, just a quick shout out, and I'm not really big on shout outs and everything, but shout out to Stephen Marshall, because we didn't even mention his name last episode.
No, we didn't. I was about to say the same exact thing. And just so everybody knows, I'm going over Stephen's house tonight. It's New Year's Eve we're recording.
Yep.
I'm going over Stephen's for New Year's, so there's not there's any sort of weirdness there. He always put him, what did he say on his Twitter bio? Joey Pasco surrogate. So,
yeah, and he was a great co-host with you for the years of the show that I was I wasn't hosting any podcasts, when I wasn't on it. And he just did such a great job. And I felt like while I was editing last week, I'm like, man, we didn't even mention his name. So
yeah, I know.
Definitely want to give a shout out to Stephen. So
he
I
hasn't
think
been playing much Magic at all lately, so
he probably
might not hear
listen.
this. But anyway, if
right.
you do listen, Stephen, hi. See you tonight.
So today, I think what we're going to talk about, we're going to continue our discussion of MTG Arena, and I think we'll probably at least mention some of the spoilers that have come out, previews that have come out for Ravnica Allegiance. But the main topic of conversation today is going to be Arena and some of the experiences that we've had over the last couple of weeks since our last episode. So, Joe, do you just want to start us off?
I feel like this is a podcast form of email I would send them about beta testing. You know what I mean? So I've got some
okay, this is just feedback for Wizards. Episode 2.
In a way, some of it is, and some of it is just my experiences with the program after playing with it for a couple weeks, and just positive, negative, whatever. Mostly positive. I feel like I've had a really great time with it. But yeah,
there are issues. I think there's room for improvement, and I think if you hadn't seen, which you may have, but I don't know if our listeners all follow me on Twitter, but I would kind of occasionally mention something that frustrated me about Arena, and our good friend Jonathan Medina called me the Arena Grump. Because I was complaining about Arena, but I told him, I'm just trying to provide feedback, and I feel like this software has great potential, and these are some things that could be improved. Why does this work like this, or why is this not intuitive? How do I do this thing that should be very simple? Things like that. So, I don't have specific examples of what I've tweeted, but, hashtag ArenaGrump. That'll find you some of them, because I started to hashtag them.
Nice. Awesome. I have some of this is kind of that kind of stuff, but just kind of concentrated over a couple weeks, and instead of putting it on Twitter, I put it in the show notes.
Sure.
So
I didn't have a podcast to complain on, so I was using Twitter. So there we go.
Yeah.
So go ahead and kick us off.
Anyway, yeah. So it looks like Arena is going to be the future of Magic esports, and I bit and I dropped $100 on gems, thanks to limited resources telling me to not spend less than $100 at a time on gems.
Yeah, there was a great episode of limited resources a few weeks ago. I think November 30th or the end of November, about going going optimal.
Going optimal with Marshall and Ryan together.
Yeah, so Ryan is kind of starting up a new venture on his own called Going Optimal, and he's going to be, and I think already is, kind of sharing a whole lot of arena-specific ways of basically doing the best you possibly can, like getting the best bang for your buck, so to speak. And
he was supposed to be streaming the next day after recording that, I think. So.
Yeah, so I haven't kept up with it, but I listened to that episode, and it was awesome, and I was halfway through it, and I sent it to Joe. So we'll link it in the show notes in case you haven't heard it. But one of the big things that he suggested that I haven't done is if you're going to be playing Arena, the first thing you want to do is just drop $100 on gems, because that's going to give you the most value. I haven't done that because I wasn't sure at first whether or not I was going to be sticking with Arena. So I kind of go, oh, here's $20. And then I'd be like, oh, I really shouldn't be dropping money on any gems. I can justify another $20, So it wasn't ideal, but it was more of the, I couldn't justify spending 100, but I stopped at, I think, 65, and I'm going to probably do the $100 purchase once Ravnica Allegiance comes out, because I will have a lot that I want to spend those gems on.
Right, definitely. So I did that, and I've been playing a bunch. Obviously, limited, standard. I finally built a standard deck on there. I built mono red, big surprise there. And I got a little nitpicky things. Just a couple nitpicky things. I'm going to run through these. Just little things that I noticed playing Arena that were kind of weird, and that I wanted to make sure either you knew about or know if you've had a different experience with it. So, first thing, cards that name another card, I feel like they should have the text added. It's a Dauntless Bodyguard. As it enters the battlefield, you name another creature you control. And then every time, I would go to target the creature, either the Dauntless Bodyguard, or didn't know which creature was targeted, I couldn't figure out which creature it was. But it turned out I figured it out because, what's that one? There's an artifact where it pumps your creatures and it does all this other stuff. I think it's like a Howling Mine and are you talking about
the Immortal Sun?
That thing, yeah. Well, it's like name a creature type or something, right?
Yeah, I don't think that does it name a creature type. I don't think it does, but you know what? That does so much that I can't remember.
There's one of them that names a creature type, and the creature type appears in the text box in blue.
Okay,
you know what I mean? So you name it. What?
It's not the Immortal Sun, but go ahead.
Okay, well anyway, you name a creature type, and that creature type appears in the text box. So when you name a creature with Dauntless Bodyguard, I thought that was going to appear in the text box too. So then I look in the text box, where is it? But there's a little black reminder text box that kind of pops off to the side of the card, and that's where the card is. Dauntless Bodyguard will say named creature X, and then creature X will say named by Dauntless Bodyguard. So literally looking for it, specifically looking for that, and couldn't find it for some reason because I didn't look for the black box. But that's where it is. So
now
anyway.
that's a good point. I didn't know that, and I have certainly missed that black box. It's not obvious.
It isn't. It's weird that it's not obvious.
It's I don't notice it. I'll hover over a card, the black box appears. I don't even see the black box, unless I'm looking for some information. In which case, maybe I would have found it the same way you just said you found it, where you hovered and you did actually see something pop up to the side there. But it's strangely subtle. I don't know what that is, why that is. If there's some sort of a blind spot that I have, but from my perspective, I barely notice the black box, which might be good because if you know what the things do, you kind of don't really want to be distracted by a pop-up, essentially. I think the card you were referring to is Vanquisher's Banner, by the way.
That is it. That is it. Vanquisher's Banner, yes.
But yeah, so I don't know if I'd want them to change that, because I think it kind of should be subtle, because people who know what the cards do or don't need the information don't need to be kind of distracted. And once you know to look for the black box, I think you kind of figure, what's Dauntless Bodyguard name, and you hover and look for the black box.
Well, then this is a question. Why have it different for Vanquisher's banner? You know what I mean? Like, why not have the creature type that they named in a black box so you get used to looking at the damn black box? You know what I mean?
Good question. Yeah, that's a good question.
Just like, why have it not be uniform? Yeah, that's why it confused me, because I was like, kept seeing Vanquisher's banner. I was like, okay, I'm used to looking at the bottom of the card for this new text that's basically added to the card, which is the same thing that happens for Dauntless Bodyguard, essentially. You know, you get that text added to that card. Yeah,
and that's how it works on Moto, too, because you would kind of hover or look at the card and it says the named creature is this, or the named card is, in like blue text. So that's kind of how it was or is on Moto. So I'm not sure if they're trying to decide between them or if they have some sort of logic as to which ones perform which way, I guess, or behave which way.
Right. So anyway, I don't want to keep going on about this, but it should be one way. It should be all one or all the other, I think. Like, why have the reminder text done two different ways? Doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's confusing enough game as it is. So anyway, moving on from that. One thing I noticed that I was having a lot of trouble with when you're targeting an opponent's blocker with like a spell, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, I think I was trying to kill one of their creatures and I was trying to target, like, apparently they had blocked something with two creatures, right? And then I was trying to target the creature, I guess, that I had put first in the blocking order, and the cards wouldn't separate. I was trying to, pick a card that was layered underneath another card. Because, you know, when you have two – let's just keep saying Dauntless Bodyguard. When you have two Dauntless Bodyguards, they're exactly the same power and toughness. They'll stack on top of one another.
Yeah.
So that's what I think was the problem. And so when I went to target the one creature, the cards wouldn't separate, and I wound up targeting the wrong creature.
Yeah.
Which was weird. And then the other thing I noticed, and it might be the same on Moto, but I haven't really played much Moto in a long time, but the blockers are ordered from left to right, which is normal. That's how it always is. But I really feel like it doesn't make sense that the leftmost creature is at the bottom of the pile of blockers. So,
yeah, that is kind of odd.
You understand what I'm saying? So they should be piled left to right with, the left card on top.
Front to back. Left to right and front to back, yeah.
Right. So I don't know. So it was really weird. So, I was like, I know how blockers are ordered, but I'm like, this is the creature on top of the pile. That's the creature I targeted first, and I tried to target it, and it was the wrong creature.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that. I know that kind of thing comes up a lot more in Limited, where you're doing a lot more creature combat, and of course in standard games when you play decks that play creatures.
Yeah, it's when you're not. Yeah, I was like, that's what I was saying. Joe, you don't play creatures, so how would you know?
Creature, right? Yeah. Those are the things that
Teferi doesn't make tokens, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, so I haven't noticed that, and that's a good point. I mean, if that's how it behaves, that does seem strange to me, because you would think left to right, front to back is intuitive. But I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that one either.
Right, it sounds like some sort of 90s club dance thing. Left to right and front to back. But anyway,
it does.
Yeah.
I think I saw it on In Living Color or something. Maybe that
totally rad.
Yeah. But speaking of blockers, though, I feel like I ran into something similar. Now, it wasn't trying to target creatures, in a blocking order situation, but when there are a lot of creatures on a battlefield, I ran into something where it was a complicated combat scenario, and this was Limited, and I'm trying to line up my blockers, and I switch some to something else, and of course the flaming rope appears and just completely sets me off to oh my gosh, hurry up, it's anxiety, and I know I set up my blockers in a certain way, and then said okay, and it didn't happen the way I thought I'd set it up. I think because it was so confusing. There were so many creatures, and they weren't. It's sometimes they seem to move in front of the creature they're blocking, and sometimes they only slightly do, and they have like the little arrows and things. But it gets, when it's a crowded battlefield, it's really difficult to tell exactly which creature is blocking which other creature, and they're crisscrossing and things like that. I think it should always move. I don't think they should ever crisscross. You shouldn't have a creature on the left blocking a creature on the right. Like, just move it. It's software.
Just move it.
Just move it.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating, I know. And it was only one situation that I remember, and I don't, again, remember the specifics of it, but that was frustrating because I'm going, oh, look, I blocked so I died. Great, I'm glad I spent, all that time figuring out blockers to just leave myself dead. That
right, I don't feel like the order of the creatures on the battlefield matters. There's never been anything.
No, that shouldn't matter.
Where that's mattered, right?
Right. I mean, they don't let you choose where your planeswalkers go or your lands go. Like they put them out there in a certain pattern.
So why make all these ropes instead of just moving the card? Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, I understand. Well, no, I don't. I don't know what I was going to say that I understood, but I don't understand why they couldn't just move the cards over to make it much clearer which creatures were blocking which creatures. So that's a little nitpick, and maybe that's just a corner case, but it didn't seem like it was extremely rare to me for somebody to have, a bunch of creatures. I think it was Dominaria limited because they had a ton of saprolings and things like that. So it was confusing. So any more to say about that?
No. There's another thing, when, how when I can't think of any of the cards, Thought Erasure.
Yeah,
right?
I was about to say, because I figured that was where you were going. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thought Erasure, reveals your hand to your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never play it, so I'm always assuming that it's them playing it against me.
Well, this is how what you're about to say is relevant to you, not to your opponent.
Right, exactly. Well, when you play that card, you see the cards, they stay face up.
Right.
And you get to continue to see the cards that you'd already seen.
Right, so I Thought Erasure you, and I see Llanowar Elf, Forest, and then you draw your card for the turn, or I'm sorry, I take one of your elves. So you draw your card for the turn, and I see magic card back, Forest, right. Llanowar Elf. I see that until you play those cards.
Right, which is fine. That's awesome, right. But when someone plays that card on me, it doesn't tell me which cards have been revealed to my opponent.
Right.
Which is weird,
So you have to keep track of it. I've done that a billion times too, where I look at my hand and I go, okay, they've seen everything up until Syncopate, so everything to the right of Syncopate they haven't seen. Something like that. I have to kind of pay attention to what cards they know, and it's kind of why do I have to take notes on their discard spell?
Right.
But they don't.
Exactly. And now the one thing the program does is your newest card drawn is always on the right.
Sure.
But there is some amount of strategy to moving those cards around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever care enough about that sort of thing. I don't care about little things like that, so I don't worry about that. But, people do.
Yeah, no, I pay attention to see a lot of times if, they draw a card and then I see that same card goes down as the land. I'm like, okay, they drew land. I don't know,
right.
So it's kind of whatever they had last turn, they still have this turn plus one land that's on the battlefield. So it's kind of, you can kind of think, oh, if they didn't have a counter spell last turn, they don't have it again. So I pay attention to that kind of thing for sure.
I pay attention sometimes when my opponent's doing it,
mm-hmm.
but I don't pay attention enough to what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
To try to do something like that. Because
Yeah.
I'm playing red. I'm just I got this. You got me? You got
right.
me?
Here's what I drew.
Here's what I got now. You got it?
Right.
Basically all I'm doing. And then, oh God, hold on. Sorry.
So the idea is it would be very helpful if they were going to keep those cards revealed for the player that cast the discard spell, the Thought Erasure or Duress or whatever it was. They should also have some sort of
it would be as simple as a little eye icon in the corner.
Right, or just maybe they have kind of a different color frame or something like that where you say, oh, all these cards are highlighted because they've been seen by your opponent.
And that's the other thing, because I'm not really paying too much attention to what's going on with specifically with my cards. When I was playing Experimental Frenzy, I didn't realize until someone played it against me that they don't see what I see. So when you play Experimental Frenzy, it reveals the top card of your library to you.
Now, if you hover, I think it says hidden information or something like that.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that recently.
Yeah, because it was just, I was like, well, I didn't know that that card wasn't revealed to my opponent. Now, if there was an eye icon in the corner.
Right, then you could say, hey, there's no eye icon here. I know it's hidden information.
Right. Exactly. The next little thing on here, it's actually a known issue. On the list, there's a link we can put in the show notes of known issues with Magic Arena. Gift of Paradise, if you play it, for instance, if you play it on a mountain, you can't tap it for red. And that's just straight up a glitch in the game.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll fix that.
It was a problem, though, because I actually needed red.
Yeah.
In a situation I was in Limited, and I couldn't get it because of that little glitch, which is pretty annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it only can't do 20% of its ability, right? It's like add 2 mana of any one color. You're like, well, it can't add red, so. Oh,
that's the other thing. Sometimes when I play Gift of Paradise, I feel like I wind up putting it on a land that was tapped already. Mm-hmm. Rather than like an untapped land. It happens a lot. I think it's because lands will be in a pile.
Okay.
And I'll try to put it on a land, and it'll always just put it on the land that I tapped up top. And I'm like, why did you do that?
That's strange. So you're saying you're misclicking? Because I would think, I haven't cast it.
Something like that. I just haven't been able to I've had it happen several times, and I can't think of how specifically I'm certain that I actually put it on the right, or tried to put it on the right mountain and then tried to put it on a different one.
Yeah.
But again, when I'm going to target stuff that's in a pile, as you're going to target those things, it should separate out.
Yeah.
So you can go, okay, I know I'm targeting this one. It does it when you're searching your library for a land. Uh-huh. The land will pop up to the top of the pile when you've hovered over it.
Right.
And I think it's the same kind of thing that needs to happen with the with anything that's in a pile like that.
Yeah, that's kind of tricky.
Yeah. I was having trouble figuring out how to stop the game on my upkeep, but I figured it out. All you got to do is there's at the bottom, your little icons. The very first icon is stop on upkeep and draw.
Yeah, and that's kind of new, I think, too. I don't remember. It might have been just different icons or something before. I haven't ever tried to stop the game on my upkeep. I think I may have done it once on my opponent's upkeep, but I'm not playing Vendilion Click. That's a card that I typically would do that, stop on their upkeep or stop on their draw step, that kind of thing. Those kind of.
I forget why it was relevant in the game I was playing, but
sure,
it was actually
it comes up
a couple times. Yeah, it did.
So yeah, that one you figured out, so that's good.
Yeah, I figured that out. So I don't know if you're having this trouble too, or if it's just my computer's super slow. But why do I have to click on some things 5 times before they work? If I'm in the collection screen and you click on that arrow and it doesn't move, and you go arrow, it doesn't move, arrow, and you hit it 3 times, eventually it goes 1 page over. I'm like, why did I have to do that 5 times?
So I wasn't going to say, I've had that kind of situation in game where you're click something and you're I clicked it, and you click it again and it works, but that, I don't know if that's a computer thing or a server thing or what. I'm running Windows 10 on a Mac. A laptop that's 4 years old. So what that means exactly, it seems like it's fine 90% of the time, 95% of the time. There are a couple weird things, but you just reminded me. I also use the Magic Mouse that Apple released, and I think it's the first one, so it's not the newer one. I only don't remember because a friend gave it to me, and so I just been using it, but. It's when I'm scrolling through my collection, or even just kind of trying to sideboard. Sometimes I click a card, and it's what am I trying to say? I click a card, and it chooses a different card, the card that was next to it, and I'm like, "What?"
Oh, that's weird. I think I've had that happen once or twice.
And I'm like, no. Or sometimes I don't click a card, and something happens. I see the screen kind of blink, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? I just accidentally took a card out of my deck that I didn't mean to, or the scrolling is completely erratic. I'll be looking through, I'm like, okay, I want to go 1 page over, and it just jumps 3 pages. and I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it's like my finger rolling over the mouse, like the touch sensitive part of the mouse, and it's trying to like swipe it, or what it's doing. But I've definitely had issues using this particular mouse. That hasn't stopped me from using it, but it seems odd to me that it would behave that way. I don't really run into that issue in any other software where I'm like, oh, I accidentally touched my mouse in a certain way that made the screen swipe, because those same shortcuts exist in the Mac OS where I can swipe to go back or forward, different kind of ways that this mouse is sensitive. But in Arena, it's like super sensitive. So I don't really understand that, but you just reminded me of it.
And yeah, and also sometimes on the deck building screen, sometimes you click a card to get rid of it, and it goes away. Sometimes you click a card to get rid of it, and it doesn't do anything. And then you click the card, and it doesn't do anything. And then you got to drag the card out to get rid of it.
Oh, I haven't had to drag it before, but yeah.
I've had to literally drag it because I'm like trying to click it to get rid of it, and it won't go away. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just my mouse, but I don't know, man. Yeah,
there's a lot of points of that could be the case. Like, it could be your mouse, it could be your computer, it could be the server, I think. I mean, I've been disconnected from the server, I think, maybe twice or something, and I've never figured out, is that the server or is that something on my end? Did, like, the internet go out or something briefly and kick me off? But that's frustrating, too, because, I mean, I guess it's going to be frustrating no matter when it happens, but of course, it sort of, once you run out of timeouts, when the rope goes down, the game just kind of takes whatever action to just end the turn as fast as possible. And so I think I was in the middle of like doing something relatively complicated. I'm like, okay, I'm going to, kill this. If he does this, I'm going to, respond by doing this. And then he did it, or he or she, sorry, my opponent did what I expected them to do, so I went to respond, and it wouldn't let me. And then it kicked me off, and it came back, and of course their spell resolved, and everything was great for them. And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm already behind in this game, and now like it brought me back and just dropped me right back into the game where I was, which I was like, well, okay. I assumed I'd just lost once I got dropped from the server, but it's just frustrating, You're like, if I'm dropped from the server, don't play the game from me. Just either kill it or
don't take my turn.
Yeah, don't take my turn. Just take the whole game. That's ridiculous. That's not
right.
Logically, that doesn't make any sense. But it was frustrating at the time when it happened. Again, it's always going to be frustrating if that happens. But I don't know if that's the fault of the server, the internet. That's what I'm saying. There's all these kind of points of failure or possible failure, and it could just be your mouse needs new batteries or something. Or
my mouse is attached to my laptop.
Okay,
so I don't know.
Well, maybe that's the problem.
I have no idea. So, you do make me think of another good point though. There does need to be, or I wish there was. I don't know if it actually makes sense for there to be. Like when I was playing that green-white deck that I built, just to kind of hose the red decks. I was playing the Johnny's Pride Mate, and it kept getting all these triggers all up and down. Like, I wish there was a just accept all triggers.
Oh, yeah, that's frustrating, too, where you just kind of have
because it's like decline, take action, and, like, I had 3 Pride Mates, and they were getting, like, 3 triggers. Each one was getting 3+1/+1 counter triggers at the start of combat.
Right.
And so I had to, like, click through 9 times every combat. I was like, this is so annoying. Why can't I just go, always accept trigger for this?
Right. Yeah, and you had that in Moto, but for some reason it's not on MTG Arena. Or just a basically F6 kind of thing. It's just like, accept everything that happens, until at the end of the turn or something, or until the end of this phase. Like, yield to all triggers until the end of combat or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I would expect that to be something that they are working on because that feels – I mean, it's something that already exists in Moto, so I kind of feel like they would transfer that sort of thing over at the earliest opportunity. But that certainly is frustrating when you're like – I mean, have you ever played – I doubt you have, actually – the Niv Mizzet mirror match when both players have a Niv Mizzet in play, and
no, but that sounds annoying. Yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to play Niv Mizzet because I just don't want to be. I don't want to be in this situation ever. This sucks. I'd rather have them have a Niv Mizzet and me not have one ever than be in this situation.
Totally.
It's like every spell that's, every instant or sorcery that's cast, both players draw a card, both players ping something, and it's kind of hard to tell what is happening sometimes, especially when there are a lot of triggers, because you're going, okay, which trigger is this? Am I triggering off of, like, it says, choose target player, or, choose a target or something, and I'm going, okay, is this him choosing? Am I choosing? Are they choosing? Like, who's choosing? Who's
like Night at the Roxbury?
Yeah.
Me? Him? Me? Him?
Yeah.
Me?
I really have a bad habit of referring to all my opponents as him, so I'm going to try to work on that, by the way. Just noticing it while I'm talking. So
Yeah. It's all good.
So that's really confusing, too. So there's got to be maybe ways to make it a little bit more apparent whose ability is actually on the stack. And I know sometimes it should be obvious. If it's asking you to do something, it's you. But it's confusing because sometimes you're like sitting there and I'm going, it's me. Oh, it's, kind of, I thought I was waiting for my opponent to make a choice. And it's me because it's going back and forth with all these triggers. Maybe they just shouldn't design cards like Niv Mizzet. That would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Get rid of Niv Mizzet. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So go ahead. You have another...
I have a lot of stuff, actually, a lot of little stupid things. So this was actually really a pain in my butt because I think this game was out of hand, honestly. But I was like, whoa, that's a big problem. I was trying – so my opponent had 2 Planeswalkers out, right? And I guess the newest one was underneath on the right-hand side, So the one was where it normally is, and the other one was underneath of it. And then there was a stack of spells. And I wanted to try to target the Planeswalker that was furthest down the line, and the stack was blocking my targeting arrow.
Right.
I was like trying to click through the stack, and I couldn't do it. It wouldn't let me click through the stack to the creature.
Yeah, and I've heard of that. I haven't encountered it, but I wonder because if you've noticed in some situations, this comes up with like Search for Azcanta, for example.
Show Battlefield.
Yeah, that
doesn't have it doesn't. I looked for
okay.
it. No, I looked for it because obviously, at that point I've been playing a while, so I was a little familiar with some of the interface, and I was like, well, maybe there's a show. Nope, no Show Battlefield, no move stack. I couldn't drag the stack. I don't think. Maybe I didn't try that, but
that doesn't sound like something you can do. I've never tried to drag the stack. I don't think, but that doesn't seem like. I would think you would end up accidentally targeting a spell. I don't know. I've done that before where I click something to read it or try to drag it. It's like, oh, good, I just targeted that.
Right.
I know what it was. I was trying to cast Blink of an Eye with Kicker. And so I clicked the Kicker option on the screen, and it like didn't register or something. And so I clicked it again, and it targeted my own creature, and... I was like, because I guess it registered the first click, but there was a delay, and then I just clicked something else. So I don't know.
There should be a card named Clicker with Kicker.
Clicker with Kicker, yeah. Click the kicker. Click kicker. Anyway.
Did you kick Clicker?
Click Kicker. Click Slither. There is a card named Click Slither. Okay, so
Jesus,
there are interface issues. Yeah, I think I've heard of something like that too, where the stack or some kind of other card is in front of what you want to target, and you can't get to it, or it's this tiny sliver of the card that you have to somehow manage to click. I don't know what they could. I mean, that shouldn't be that difficult. They should have something again. Move the cards. Like, don't have cards on the battlefield where the stack could ever show up. Like if the stack is always going to be on the right 33% of the screen, then keep cards away from that, or move them when the stack pops up. Like
if the stack pops up, if a card is hidden by the stack, the cards just shift over.
Yeah,
it's like, oh crap, I can't be seen. Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So. yeah, okay. So anyway, that's all the little tiny things that I just wanted to talk about because I thought they were fairly relevant and useful to be aware of, at least.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about collection management on the game because there's no secondary market, which I like. But the system in place is basically you got to open a bunch of packs and you got to use a bunch of wild cards to make your decks. And one of the things that leads to is rare drafting. So when you're drafting, obviously when you play sealed, it doesn't matter. You get whatever you open. But when I'm drafting Ravnica, oh God, I'll take a Sacred Foundry if I'm blue-green. Yeah. Like, pack 2, pick 1. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to take
will
those.
I, because I'm drafting, in my goal anyway, I guess it's all about your goals, and I guess this applies to real-life paper Magic too, but in this case, I'm drafting to build my collection. So if something pops up and I'm like, I need that for my collection, I'm only drafting because I want to get more cards for my collection. I want to win more gems and things. I'm taking the, like you said, Sacred Foundry, even though I have a blue-green deck. I'm going to do that because I'm like, this is much easier than trying to open it in a pack or having to spend a wild card on it. And, at worst, it's one card out of my draft deck that I don't have. And, maybe that means I win fewer games, but I got a card I needed for my collection.
Yeah, I was like, rather than that one random pack, you got one specific card that you would have only gotten by opening a pack. You know what I mean? So it's weird, though. I don't know. I like to be more disciplined when I draft. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of an odd thing, but it's the base. I mean, that's the system. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the motto around here is "Stop bitching, start brewing." So it's like, hey, if that's the system, we got to take advantage of that system. Yeah. If we can't buy singles, we got to either use our wild cards or draft those cards when we see them pop up. It's like, I know I need these shocklands or whatever, so if I see one come up in a draft, which now I have a place at a Sacred Foundries, and I just from opening packs and drafting, so I don't need any more of those specifically. But it's one of those things where, and that's the one thing you do have to keep in mind though, is to not draft one you already have a play set of, because it's almost useless at that point.
Yeah, well, that's definitely, you need to be aware of what you need, because I guess I'm not going to rare draft if I'm not sure whether or not I have four of something, because if it's a card that I know I need, then I'm aware that I don't have 4. If it's kind of like, oh, here's this card, I'm not sure if I have 4, well, then I must not need it that badly, so I'm going to...
But lands and stuff are important, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not 100% certain sometimes that I have 4 overgrown tombs, but you need one. If you need it, but you can always leave that screen and check your collection.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can come back to that draft.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
So you can just go, oh, do I have that? And go into collection and then go, oh, yeah, no, I do need an overgrown tomb draft.
One of the benefits of untimed bot drafting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I do like the fact that there's no secondary market. It's very interesting to me. Like, if Arena becomes like the primary way to play Magic, I mean, I'm just thinking like weird future where paper Magic isn't relevant. Mm-hmm. It's weird that like so many businesses will go out of business basically because there's no secondary market. It's not like Star City Games can go, okay, we're going to switch to Arena singles. Right. There are no Arena singles. Like if paper Magic dries up, there's like no market for them to get into, which is just weird. It's interesting to think of that way, but
I don't think that's likely. And
no, neither do I.
Because I think the Arena is kind of encouraging players to get into the game and play it in all ways it can be played. So that you're at Target and, hey, look, Magic cards, right? Like, I'm going to buy these because I played Arena, that kind of thing. But
although I have little to no interest in playing paper Magic, I'll be completely honest.
Well, see, as we know, everybody plays Magic differently, and that's kind of what's one of the things that's great about this game is how it can appeal to such a broad set of players. For me, I mean, obviously we grew up on paper Magic, but over the past couple of years, I've sort of I don't really play Standard in paper. I would like buy a deck, but I really wouldn't keep up with it, if that makes any sense. Like, as the deck evolves, I'm like, I'm not buying more cards because I don't really play Standard in paper unless it's against our friend Kenny. And so it's sort of like I don't play most of the time when I play paper Magic, I'm playing Modern. Again, most of the time that's against Kenny as well. But if we enter like a Star City event, I'm not playing Standard, I'm playing Modern. So I've kind of set this thing up where I won't buy cards, or I try not to buy cards for Standard in paper. I just buy Modern cards in paper. But I'll buy Standard cards for Moto, for example, until a couple of months ago, where I texted you saying, hey, remember that $50 that you gave me? Side story. But that just paid for my Standard deck on Moto. And guess how many times I've played with that deck?
None.
Barely at all, right? Like, the day I got it, I built the deck. I built like Jeskai Control, and this is, whatever, October 1st or something, October 5th, whenever the set came out. Bought all the cards I needed, played with it for a day or two, then was at the same time trying Arena, built Jeskai on Arena, don't ever play Standard on Moto. So it's kind of like, well, that was, not ideal, but whatever. The point I'm getting at is, if I'm not going to be playing paper Magic, playing Standard in paper very often, Arena's amazing because I'm looking at preview cards coming down the pipe for the next set, and I'm thinking, okay, do I need to buy 4 of these? No, I don't. Unless I'm going to play them in Modern, I don't need to buy them. It's great. I'm like, I'm basically saving up my wild cards right now to try to make sure that I can get the cards as quickly as possible without having to spend much money. But it's kind of great, and it's a weird way of changing my thinking because normally I'm trying to, spot cards that are going to possibly spike in value. You look at a card and think, okay, how much is that pre-selling for? How much do I think it, might drop after the set releases or might rise, and try to get the best possible price you can. But I don't need to think about any of that because guess what? Super hot Mythic Rare costs a Mythic Rare wild card, and so does the crappiest Mythic Rare in the set, which you don't need to spend a wild card on because it's crappy. But, like, it's the one you open in the pack and go, but still.
And by the way, just so everybody knows, Joey is notoriously, like, the best at picking out the cards that, like, are pre-selling for, like, nothing and then wind up spiking in value. I've been interested sometimes. One day I'm going to just buy 30 of whatever card Joey goes. I think I would have pre-ordered a playset of those. Like, cool, I ordered 30 of them.
Yeah, see, I appreciate the compliment. I don't really think – I don't see it that way usually. I definitely I missed on Mission Briefing, meaning I thought it was going to be way better. I pre-ordered it, and then I canceled my pre-order because I read a lot of opinions on it that started making a lot more sense to me and thought, you know what, I think this card's going to drop. And it hasn't seen hardly any play. So
I saw that card last night.
Yeah,
I saw it last night for the first time opening a prize pack, and because this is how much I know about the current Standard environment. And I was like, oh, that's a neat card. And I was like, I've never seen anyone play that. I'm like, it must not be any good because now we have basically the data, of I've never seen this card before and I've been playing a ton of Standard, so it must not be a Standard card.
Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate the compliment. I just read the articles and buy the cards that I think I'm going to want to play. I might buy 4 of them, might buy 8 at most, and that's it. So, anyway, I don't even have to use that part of my brain anymore. So it's just like unless it's for Modern, and even then, I might just wait and see if a card is actually going to start to shine in Modern before I buy it. And I did that with Arclight Phoenix, and obviously that card blew up, right? So
that was the one that Ryan Gurmore, he has a real good habit of doing the same thing with red cards. So he can pick it, right? He was Arclight Phoenix. He was on Arclight Phoenix before I knew what Arclight Phoenix was. You know what I mean? Right. Like, you texted me about Arclight Phoenix. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, dude. Like, I haven't played Magic in a year and a half, man. Like, but he's like, Arclight Phoenix, so good. It's going to be modern, playable, blah, blah, blah. Faithless Looting, Arclight Phoenix all day. I'm like, okay. But now, I get it. I mean, it's a good card. but he's really good at that with red cards. So now is it just me? Just as someone who's been around for the entire life of Mythic Rare as a rarity, are Mythic Rares all just like Planeswalkers and weird cards now?
I mean, sort of. I mean, I guess they're finally, after 10 years of printing Mythics, maybe they've got that kind of subset of cards nailed or a little more closely than they used to. You're not going to see a rare Planeswalker. You're most likely any Planeswalker is going to be Mythic. I'm trying to think of some other Mythics that I know of, and it's like Star of Extinction.
Arclight Phoenix, we were just talking about.
Arclight Phoenix, which doesn't. I feel like that might. I would almost see that as a rare, but it's a
that. Yeah, that is. To me, that's like the one card I've really seen that feels like a rare, or feels like a staple. That's the thing, like Lotus Cobra, right? Lotus Cobra was a Mythic rare. It doesn't feel Mythic at all.
Right, and that was only 1 year after they introduced Mythics, because Mythics came out in Shards of Alara in fall 2008. Lotus Cobra, Zendikar, a year later, 2009. So
that's right.
They were still trying to get it right, and I'm sure arguments can be made. The same arguments can be made from 10 years ago that can be made now, but that's sort of a difference of opinion, because like you just said, and I think I may have said, we both use the word feel, right? Like, it feels like it shouldn't be Mythic, but like, all right, who feels like this card should be rare? Raise your hand. This is what they're doing at Wizard to like figure out rarity of cards. Who feels like this should be Mythic? That's sort of what it seems like. And everybody's going to have different opinions on what feels rare or what feels Mythic. And I think that just that's going to happen forever.
What I'm saying is, like, I'm playing Constructed now, and I feel like almost all the cards that I want to play Constructed are like rare, common, uncommon. Like, there aren't a lot of Mythics that I like really care to play in a Constructed deck. They're all like Commander cards,
sure,
which makes their value on Arena like nothing. Because there is no Commander on Arena.
Right.
So it's like, it's weird that the Mythic Rares feel like Mythic Rares, but cards that feel like Mythic Rares are more of like casual cards. I don't know. It's odd. It's an odd thing that they have to walk now, with Arena being their way to do Standard and Mythic Rares being more catered to Commander players.
I mean, I'm imagining Commander may be an option at some point if it hasn't popped up as a temporary thing at some point already. I don't know. I wouldn't have noticed it. The word could have been on my screen and I would have just blind spot, like I just don't really pay that much attention to it. So that's a possibility, I'm sure. I mean, I really think Arena is right now, it's Standard and the most recent sets for Limited, and then a few kind of odd formats that they've been throwing in. But this just came out. They're building on it. So I imagine that we're going to see more and more and more added to it as far as formats. As long as the cards are programmed into the system, then they should be playable in some format. So I can't imagine that doesn't happen eventually.
Right.
But to go back to your point saying most Constructed staples are rare, common, or uncommon, and not Mythic, I think that just might be a kind of the state of Standard right now. I know that's how it feels to me, trying to get 20 dual lands because they're all rare. and I'm like, well, I've got these Mythic rares sitting here that I don't know what to get because
exactly
right.
Well, that's what I feel like. I wish that you could trade down,
like your Mythic wild cards. Yeah. I
wish I could take a Mythic wild card and use it for a rare, or take it, and you can only go down one. So you can't like accidentally burn a Mythic wild card on a common or something.
Okay.
But I wish you could I wish you could choose to use your Mythic wild cards for rares, or your rares for uncommons, or your uncommons for commons.
Right.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I guess I'd like that option. I mean, I initially definitely would like that option because I could have gotten, my mana base earlier. But it doesn't bother me as much anymore. But maybe that's because I have most of my mana base now. And I say most because I only have 3 of each rare, because if I'm playing Limited, I'm going to be upset if I see one and then I could have just grabbed that. Or if I open packs and I open a Sacred Foundry, for instance, right? I have 3, and if I open one in a pack, guess what? Great, I have 4. I can be happy. But if I spend gems, or if I use a wild card and now I have 4, and then open a pack and there's a freaking Sacred Foundry in it, I'm gonna be ticked off. I don't like that. So I'm basically trying to make sure I only ever have 3 of rares and mythics, because if I open it in a pack, it'll be a feel bad. Until recently, like I used a mythic wild card on my 4th copy of Teferi recently, because I thought I'm unlikely to be opening many more packs of Dominaria. So
exactly, yeah.
But I'm like waiting until the end of the thing. So for Guilds of Ravnica, I think I do. I have 3 Steam Fence and 3 Sacred Foundry and 3. What? No, those are the only Jeskai lands right now. I think I will immediately try to get all 4 Hallowed Fountain, because I'm likely to want to play like either base Azorius or continue with blue-white splashing something. But I don't know. I'll start with 3 and see how it goes.
Yeah, no, totally. I get it 100%. Speaking of feel bads, this is a good little mindset thing. Like, I think those of you who listen to this show in the Joey era, and I don't mean the Joey era as in when Joey was on the show, I mean the Joey era as in the Friends spinoff Joey.
Oh, man.
I feel like, I like mindset things. I like to mention things that help improve your mindset. We all hate when your opponent has already clearly won, but they keep like playing spells and showing you things, show you their hand. I hate that so much. I mean, I don't care because I don't let those things bother me, but it's like a total jerk move. Now, one way you can turn that feel bad into a feel good with Arena is to just keep in mind that your opponents have quests just like you do. Some of those quests might be play 40 red spells, might be attack with 20 creatures, things like that, like, if they've already won the game and they're still sitting there playing creatures and playing spells, you're like, why don't you just, do that? And you have the option to concede
right
in that situation, but just keep it in mind. Keep it in mind that maybe they're just trying to get to their 20 red spells or whatever they need to get their gold for the day.
Right.
And if you keep it in mind and you always just assume that's what people are doing, then you don't have that feel bad anymore of, oh, this person's just showing off what they had in their hand.
Right.
And just a little thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, because that's something I'm doing all the time where, I mean, not showing off, but I'm trying to just achieve my quest. Like, I will start a game, I pick a pre-con sometimes because I'm like, I don't have time to really think that much. I'm just trying to achieve this quest while I'm making breakfast for my daughter. I'm like feeding her breakfast and I'm like going back and forth. I don't even know what's happening in the game. I'm just like, cast the spells. I'm
That's
like,
funny.
whatever.
That's really funny.
It's, I don't care about winning. I'm just trying to cast enough spells to get the gold. And sometimes that means that, I'm just not really paying that much attention to making the correct plays. I'm just trying to cast spells. So, what was I going to say? Oh, that's another frustrating thing too. There's like this weird line to walk if you're in that situation where you're like, you don't want to make your opponent concede. So you're like, man, if I play this, my board is overwhelming. They might just concede as soon as I play it. So maybe I should slow roll so they don't concede and they think they still have a chance to win. And then next turn I can play like 2 spells and get an extra spell, stuff like that actually comes up.
So funny. Oh my God.
I don't want to make my opponent concede. And that's another thing that's frustrating too, where you're like, you start up a game and you like play like 1 land and your opponent, maybe they miss their second land drop and they concede and you're like going, no, like I only needed to cast 2 more spells and you conceded on turn 2. Like, why? I don't want to win. Let me cast my spells. It's funny, but it is like a factor right now because of these quests. And that's kind of what you're getting at, is sometimes maybe somebody's just trying to cast enough spells to achieve that quest and not really trying to either rub it in or necessarily even make the right play,
Right. So BBD, Brian Braun Doohan, has a couple good articles on tcgplayer.com about Arena, just kind of other things of, touching on strategies for how to get the most out of your collection, how to play better. Yeah, just things like that. Just for Arena, just 2 general articles that he did. We'll put them in the show notes.
Cool.
I don't want to go over them, but they were also just good resources that I enjoyed reading, and I figure y'all enjoy reading it too. Funny thing is, the bulk of this podcast was supposed to be about best of 1 versus best of 3. And we haven't even got there yet, and we're pretty much done. Yeah,
we spent too much time arena grumping.
That's okay. That's okay. The Grumpusauruses are back in business. But I want to keep talking about the stuff that I'm got here about Arena that isn't best of 1 versus best of 3. We can talk about that next time, I guess, since there will probably be a next time, it looks like.
Yep.
So talking about rankings and tiers, there's a ranking system. Y'all, if you're playing, you should know. The one thing I like about the ranking system is that once you hit a rank, it seems like you're locked into that rank. Fun fact, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
My standard is currently tier 2 diamond.
That's way ahead of me. You've been playing, like you've been just playing and playing.
Grinding a standard. Yeah. I really have. I've been grinding the hell out of standard. My limited is not as good. I am so rusty on limited. I think I'm like gold tier 4. Like I'm
that's higher than my standard ranking. But maybe that's about my goal, my standard ranking right now. But that's about where I'm at though with limited. But standard, I've been killing it. But what's really cool is that and I know this because when I first hit diamond, I was just getting creamed. When you hit diamond, it won't demote you back to platinum, right? Mm-hmm.
Like once you hit diamond, you're locked in at diamond. But you can go obviously from tier 4 or from tier 3 to tier 4 like that. And I thought that when you're first promoted to a new tier, maybe it locks you in right then until you get that first win on that tier.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not true. Eventually it will. I haven't figured out the exact amount of games, but it lets you lose a couple games before it actually demotes you a tier.
Okay, that's definitely good to know. Just having a little bit of a safety net, sort of, once you feel like you achieved something and then take it away. That
right.
Or you don't want them to just take it right away.
So yeah, so I don't know. I'm determined, dude. I'm telling you, we're getting to Mythic.
Yeah,
getting to Mythic.
We have 30 days left, I think, until the season ends. So, and
I know this is just preseason.
Right, but I mean, that's what we've got right now. That's what we've got to work with. So
right, I'm like, okay, well, let's start. That's like I said on the last show. I want to go from challenger to champion. So the only way you got to do that is got to get to that mythic, right? I mean, because it's the mythic championships. I guess you got to be mythic ranked to play in the mythic championships. So
yeah, they'll check your arena ranking at the door. What's your DCI number and your arena ranking? I'm sorry, you can't play. You can't play in this event. Welcome, challenger. Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. Next time I think we'll just. I thought we were going to touch on some spoilers, but today, but we'll have a lot more spoilers to talk about next time. And next time we might just have to do a whole spoiler show because I think the full spoiler will be up in because if we record in 2 weeks, right, that'll be right before pre-release weekend, right? Well, we can talk about the things that we're excited about then. The cards that we're looking forward to playing and things in standard on Arena. Joey, when's the last time the two of us did a spoiler episode, huh? Oh, man. That's a good question. Let's see. I'm going to say it was... I think Dark Ascension was probably the last time we talked spoilers. So a while, huh? It's been a little bit. It's been since 2012, so almost 7 years. We're talking about going into the winter set, so 7 years. 7 years worth of sets ago. So that'll be fun. Yeah, we're going to do all 7 years of spoilers. That's right. We're going to talk about our top 10 cards from every set since Dark Ascension. I love it. Yeah, it's a great topic. Sure, it's excellent. Yeah,
but we also have some other stuff to talk about. We got stuff to talk about, so
yes,
we'll be back.
Yeah, so until next time, we are YMTG Taps.
Stop bitching, start brewing. We